Welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast, a show designed to change the way we talk and think about education. By sharing stories of successes and triumphs, we aim to challenge the dominant narrative that often negatively portrays our disenfranchised populations. I'm your host, Charles Williams, an educator for 15 years, a current school principal in Chicago, and an educational consultant. Let's get started. This episode is a Pause to Ponder segment. These bi-weekly sessions will allow me to share with you my personal thoughts and reflections on a wide spectrum of topics as they relate to education. It is my hope that you will be able to take something from these segments and apply it in a meaningful way as you continue to do amazing work. Remember, while we all have different roles, we all have a single job: educating our students.
I am happy to announce that a good friend of mine, Tracy Browder, the host of the Intelligagy, pedagogy podcast, and I will be hosting some special episodes based on a simple concept: candid conversations between principals and teachers. When she first approached me with the idea, my initial response was one of confusion and hesitation. You want to dedicate an entire thread to this? I mean, don't all principals have these discussions with their staff? And as she chuckled at my naivety, my mind quickly raced through my experiences with my principals, both as a teacher and a student. While I admit that I had some amazing administrators along the way, I really only felt comfortable having conversations with one or two. And rarely did I feel comfortable with being completely open and honest. Later that day, as I shared this with my wife, she pointed out that she has often told me that I am not the norm when it comes to administrators. As she shared her recounts of my adventures as a principal, I tried to examine each story to determine what was special or unique. In fact, I've come to the conclusion that I was simply trying to be the administrator that I would want to have. Someone who is patient and understanding, someone who is forgiving and supportive, someone who isn't afraid to jump in and get their hands dirty, and someone who is willing to stand up and speak out for their staff. Now, please don't think that this is an episode that's going to result in a conceited attitude or if it's some sort of narcissistic perception of my administration. Rather, I wanted to paint a comprehensive picture of the foundation for what I would like to share with you today. You see, I think that the reason I view my actions as normal is because I truly believe in what I do. It's not a show. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not trying to be different. Rather, I walk my talk. And that is what I want to talk about today. Walk your talk. I'm going to be honest. This is something that I've discussed a lot. In fact, I needed to go back through my episodes to ensure that I didn't already have one dedicated to this topic. So I'm sorry if you've heard this before, though if you have, I would encourage you to stick around because it never comes out the same way twice. And who knows, you may find a gem or two. And if this is the first time you've heard me utter these words, I promise it won't be your last. Walk your talk. This concept stemmed as I really started to venture into the educational spaces of social media. I'll admit I was blown away by what I discovered. Nearly everyone I encountered presented deeply profound ideas. Beliefs were shared that often pushed back against the mainstream ideas that dominated traditional conversational spaces. Theories around best practices were abundant. Every time I logged in, I felt like I was walking through those exhibition halls at conferences. You know the ones where you're bombarded with awesome ideas and walk away with so many freebies that you need to buy an additional suitcase for the trip home? Yeah, those. Only this was every day. It was awesome. In the beginning. For those of you who are conference pros, we know how to traverse the exhibition hall, how to steer clear of the spinning wheel where I can win a pen and a weekly email about a product, how to avoid eye contact with the overly cheerful vendor casually walking in our direction. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with exhibition halls. But after a while, you learn how to focus on what you need, how to see through the fluff. And to be honest, social media is often the same way. As I grew accustomed to the spaces, I started to see that there existed many who looked from a distance yet lacked any real substance. Those who latched onto an idea because it was trending but failed to have any experience in actually implementing them. Those who preached innovation and advancement yet clung to traditional approaches. It was then that I adopted this phrase: walk your talk. So I want to share with you two things that I often see from my fellow leaders that fail to meet this mark. 1. Relationships. As administrators, we often stress the importance of building relationships with students. We all know what Comer says, right? No significant learning, right? We know that. And this is absolutely true. However, why is it that we, as administrators, often do not feel that we need to do the same with our staff? I'm not talking about friendship. I'm talking about relationships, or, as established in my episode with P. Sloan Joseph, rapport. If we expect our staff to establish relationships founded on mutual respect and trust, should we not model for them how to do so and strengthen the culture and climate in the building during the process? Number 2, differentiation. As administrators, we encourage teachers to implement differentiation to ensure that all of their students are able to experience success. We believe in this concept so much so that the most lesson plans even have a space dedicated to capture how teachers will provide the necessary support for all of their students. And we must not forget that differentiation does not just apply to those who are struggling, but also to those who quickly grasp the concept and can benefit from additional opportunities to extend their learning. Why, then, do we insist on developing one-size-fits-all professional development sessions? Is it impossible for our staff, just like our students, to need a varied approach to learning? Are these the only two? Of course not. But I'm not going to continue down this pathway, as that is something that I reserve for my workshop with administrators. No, instead, I wanted to get you thinking about areas in your professional or even personal life in which your words and your actions may not be aligned. After all, this is a Pause to Ponder episode. And this brings me back to the start of this discussion. A series of candid conversations between principals and teachers. Tracy and I will attempt to share with you our unique perspectives on topics through the lens of our respective positions. It is our hope that this will spark an interest and a desire for similar conversations to take place in schools across the country. If this sounds like something you may be interested in hearing, I would encourage you to subscribe to both of our shows. I mean, you're already subscribed to this one, right? Right? So this is the last Pause to Ponder episode for this season, as I will be releasing a special holiday episode on Christmas, starring some of my colleagues. I hope that you're enjoying these reflective sessions, and I would love to hear your thoughts on how I can improve or topics that you would like me to cover. Just reach out and let me know. Until next time. I want to thank you for listening to the Counter Narrative Podcast. If you like what you are hearing, please be sure to like and subscribe. The show can be found on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and several of your other favorite platforms. This podcast is also featured on schoolrubric.com, where you can find educational articles, videos, and interviews with educators from around the globe. Be sure to connect with the host and other listeners by following the show on Twitter at the CN Podcast and joining the show's Facebook group. Take care.